Welcome to The Know, I'm Ashley.
I'm Mica.
The developer behind one of the most anticipated games of 2018 is getting accused by a whole bunch of people of having a toxic workplace culture.
This story centers around the French studio Quantic Dream, which made Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, and is currently finishing up the PlayStation 4 exclusive Detroit Become Human.
And while it's made some very well-regarded games, some say that Quantic Dream has some major issues when it comes to its work environment. And when we say toxic, we're not talking about like green slime like Ninja Turtles. Not that kind. That's the fun kind of toxic,
Yeah, this is the bad kind of toxic. Some former and current employees told journalists that the workplace culture there is crappy, to say the least, with overworked staff and an atmosphere that's allegedly filled with racist and sexist jokes, the best of them.
So it's a video game developer.
Yeah.
Oh, but the drama doesn't stop there. One of the journalists who covered the story says he's now blacklisted by Sony, which isn't how journalism is supposed to work, but more on that too.
The heads of Quantic Dream strongly deny the charges, but there's no doubt that there's definitely a cloud around the studio right now, and that's not the best look when one of your biggest games is about to come out.
Okay, so a little bit of background on what happened. Over the weekend, 3 separate French news outlets, Le Monde, Canard PC, and Mediapart, published stories that set this whole thing off, and the good folks at Eurogamer translated reports for the benefit of those of us who don't speak French, in case my pronunciation of the news outlets wasn't enough to tip you off.
The report singled out studio leaders David Cage and Guillaume Dufond-de-Mier, I probably pronounced that wrong too.
Again, we don't speak French. Real sorry.
And accused them of various inappropriate behaviors. They range from working staff too hard to what Eurogame called colluding in or at least turning a blind eye to schoolboy culture involving sexist and racist jokes. So great.
There was particularly controversy around hundreds of photoshopped images that were mailed around the company, and those images were, well, you could say some people would find them objectionable, possibly.
Yeah, according to an article from Le Monde that quotes several current and former employees, the most shocking images present Quantic Dream's collaborators in sexual positions adorned with homophobic or sexist slurs, or even made up to look like Nazis.
Possibly sexy Nazis.
Possibly! Or racist sexy Nazis. Wow, yeah, one image apparently shows...
I think that's just Nazis.
That's just Nazis. One image apparently shows a male stripper with Cage's head, and he's holding a power tool that has a dildo on it. Like you do.
Yeah. The studio has 180 people, the vast majority of whom are men. Not too terribly surprising. And there's also reportedly a picture of a penis with farting testes on the wall. You guys, don't give Barb ideas.
Seriously. Cage was singled out in the report as being autocratic in behavior. He's reportedly nicknamed Papa, God, and Sun King, and demands long hours and is known for not listening to others. He sounds like a great dude.
Well, like, he likes his nicknames. Also a big fan of dirty jokes, according to reports. Eurogamer quoted a former employee as saying David Cage has a very particular viewpoint on how he runs his studio, which, in his own words, he sees as a private or semi-private space. He feels he has the right to say whatever he wants. It's his place.
As for the workload at Quantic Dream, one former employee described 15-hour days, 90-hour work weeks, and spending weekends at work.
So again, a video game developer. Not that that's an excuse.
No.
It's just tragically standard for the industry. Yeah. Another employee described an incident where, after watching a video of a robbery, Cage jokingly asked an employee from Tunisia, "Is this a cousin of yours?"
Wow! Cage vehemently denies the charges and told French reporters, "You want to talk homophobia? We work with Ellen Page, who is fighting for LGBT rights. We are working with Jesse Williams about civil rights in the USA. Judge my work."
He told Le Monde that the studio is not a rugby locker room. Hey, come on, there are probably some nice rugby locker rooms.
Yeah.
But apparently while he was saying that, he was sitting in front of a painting that the newspaper described as a penis with farting testicles. Well, maybe they don't have farting testicles in rugby.
Probably not. That's just in soccer, not in rugby. It's also worth noting that Cage has been criticized in the past for how women are depicted in his games, notably in Heavy Rain, whose female hero is repeatedly threatened with sexual assault.
And then there was recently the Paris Games Week trailer for Detroit Become Human, which caused a whole bunch of controversy with family groups in the UK for how it addressed issues like domestic violence. The trailer showed a man being violent towards both the female character and his daughter, leading some to accuse Quantic Dream of turning a very serious situation into a game.
Meanwhile, Quantic co-founder Guillaume Dufond-de-Mier was also accused of behavior like allegedly hitting on staff members at parties. He denied that and responded, "I will be extremely clear, it's absolutely false. None of any of this happened at any evening event."
Dufond-de-Mier also told Kotaku, "I'm furious and outraged by these accusations, which I take very seriously, and I will take all possible legal actions to defend my honor."
Meanwhile, one of the journalists who reported on the Quantic story tweeted that he's now been blacklisted by Sony, but then he later tweeted that he got a text from a Sony rep who called that false.
I mean, it seems like that's a really quick sort of turnabout. Don't you normally figure out you're blacklisted when they stop giving you stuff? Like, having this happen over the course of a weekend and retracted seems, I don't know, like maybe it was a bit of paranoia, possibly. Anyway, apparently not blacklisted. At any rate, Quantic is hardly the first studio to get accused of being a bad place to work. Unfortunately, it happens a lot, especially with game developers, because people want to work in game development and will accept poor working conditions to do so. Telltale Games and CD Projekt Red have also been accused of working employees too hard in what some call the crunch culture of video game development.
And back in 2010, the spouses of some employees at Rockstar San Diego wrote an open letter criticizing working conditions at the studio, again, revolving around crunch and overworking employees.
Not to mention there was that whole thing years and years ago with EA's spouse and all the accusations of EA's crushing, crunching culture.
But if these allegations about Quantic are true, it could have some pretty serious implications.
Yeah, for the studio in particular. For one, the video game industry is one of those sort of big, small worlds. If you develop a reputation for being a sleazebag, that's going to be remembered the next time you apply for a job at another studio, and they may pass on you in favor of another candidate because they just don't need that kind of headache.
For two, or the flip side of that,
yes,
maybe, if your studio develops a reputation for being a bad place to work, talented developers will look elsewhere for their paycheck because no one wants to endure photoshopping their head onto Nazis and racism.
Although we have an awful lot of dick drawings around the office, and I think of them fondly. Mostly from Barb.
Yeah.
She does veins very well.
She does.
Anyway, while obviously issues of workplace conditions are much more serious than a video game, it is worth noting that Quantic Dream's upcoming game, Detroit Become Human, is expected to be one of the signature exclusives for Sony this year. At E3 last year, it won GameSpot's Best of E3 award. It was also nominated by IGN as the best PlayStation 4 game.
Executives at Sony have shouted out the game at conventions as proof of how awesome Sony's 2018 lineup will be. So, yeah, there's a lot of anticipation that's already built up around this game, and that translates into a lot of pressure on Quantic Dream to deliver.
Hence, crunches and stuff like that, probably. How will the allegations affect Detroit's rollout this year at all? Well, they may not. We'll have to wait and see. But if the allegations are found to be true, Quantic Dream might have a much bigger problem in the long term that could affect their future projects.
So what do you guys think of the allegations against Quantic Dream? Let us know in the comments.
And for all your video game news, including who's being good and who's being bad, we're basically Santa. Make sure you like this video, and if you're new around here, subscribe to the Know. Over the weekend, 3 separate French news outlets, Le Monde, Canard PC, and Mediaport. I can't pronounce French. Okay.
Guillaume Dufondemier.
Guillaume Dufondemier.
Guillaume Dufondemier. Okay. Guillaume Dufondemier. There's